Good morning, Inspired Illuminators. It's me, Jennifer Engel. It's a beautiful morning here in Illinois. The birds are singing. The moon is out. It's big, it's bright, it's beautiful. The wind is blowing. So I'm really hoping this won't interfere with my talk too much. But it kind of goes with the topic. Because communication is the breath of life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Use your words. Why do people stop talking? You know, whether you're in a romantic relationship, parent-child, family, work, community, it's a two-way street. You're dealing with two different people, different views, different perspectives on the world. And when we're young, we kind of believe that everyone sees and understands the world just like we do. And as we get older, hopefully, we learn that that's just not true. That pretty much for as many people as there are in the world, and I would even expand it beyond, but I'm just focusing in on people right now, there are that many perceptions of the world. And so, it's like we all have like a general understanding of what tree is, or what street is, or what car is, or what house is. Like we all have this general understanding. But when it comes to the specifics, that's where we start to divide. Again, I use trees a lot just because they make sense to me. You know, like if you take one general idea, that's the trunk, we have the general idea, but then it could fraction off into all these different branches and ideas of what that could look like and be like and feel like. And so when you have two people coming together, you need a Venn diagram. You need person's A perspective, person B's perspective, and the happy little P in the middle where it crosses over. That's where you two meet. But so often, people get into relationships on accident. And nobody's trained us how to have a relationship. They just say, it happens. Okay. But then, I really like how one, I don't know, I guess they're spiritual teachers or whatever. I really like how they envisioned it, because I do envision it like a Venn diagram. I do envision it like two cells or bubbles coming together. Now, if you picture each person like a bubble, they've got all this stuff inside their bubble. All those colors twirling and whirling around. And some of it is great, beautiful stuff. Some of it is dark, ugly stuff. Some of it is just very different stuff than what you're used to seeing or being around. And then the bubbles come together. There's a breaking, a ripping point as they do this. And then all that stuff spills in to your world. So, we don't know this, but we do experience it. It's like the first couple months, maybe a year, is like this beautiful honeymoon period. All you can see is the beautiful outside bubble. And if we go back to my previous discussion about projecting, a lot of times when we're in this honeymoon period, we are projecting our own dreams, wishes, and desires upon this other person's bubble. And we don't ask them, hey, what are the dreams and desires you actually have within your own bubble? Okay? Or if it's not like a romantic relationship, if it's more professional, we can go back to intent. You know, emotions are good, but so are sometimes objective non-emotions. And that can be really hard when you're in a relationship. If we all entered a space and before we actually started a relationship said, hey, what is your intent in this sacred space? Now you don't have to say sacred, you know, that'd probably weird people out if you were in the business world. But you can say, what is your intent with this deal, with our interaction? Okay, you can go all the way on the spectrum, from touchy, feely, lovey, all the way up to objective non-feeling. It doesn't matter. What is your intent in this interaction? What do you hope will come of it? And then you actually talk about it. The tough thing is, with relationships, we may actually agree in that moment on the intent and agree to pursue forward with the relationship. Again, whether it is romantic, familial, family, community, or business, or whatever else. Okay? But then a couple things happen. There could be blocks. Block number one that I've seen. I heard what your intent is. I agree to it. But really, I'm getting into this with the idea of changing your mind so it matches my intent, my projections, my desires. I'm going to change you. That's block number one. And a lot of people do that. Okay? Block number two is people could truly understand and see each other clearly, see the intent clearly, but then the people change. Because, what is that quote? Nothing changes but change itself, or something like that. Nothing stays the same but change? I can't remember. But basically, hopefully, people grow and change. Or maybe one person stays the same and then the other person grows and changes. But change happens. That's why I think it's really important, and that's where one of my quotes came from. If you want connection, you have to have constant, clear communication. Okay? I think the healthiest relationships check in with each other every day. Whether that's business. So I'm at work and we have professional learning communities. We literally check in with each other every day. Are we on track? Do we need to adjust things? And that was my other quote, right? You know, ask the questions, be honest with the answers, reflect, and then watch the unfolding. And as you ask the questions, as you get the answers and reflection back, you need to ask your questions. These questions that I came up with to help guide my life doesn't just help me personally. It helps me in every relationship too. Okay? As I'm watching this unfolding, as I'm participating in this, how does it make me feel? How does it make we feel? And the other person, right? So that's number one. I literally use my spine and my gut and my heart as my gauge. Does it feel right? Or does it feel wrong? Or anything in between? Okay? The second question I ask is, does this experience add to my energy and joy and functionality? Or is it taking away from that? This is where you have to be really honest, raw and real with yourself and with others. If it is not adding to your energy and joy, your growth, if it's just taking it away, then you need to move into question number 3. Does this need a tune-up? Does this need an overhaul? Or does it need a trade-in? A tune-up is where you and that person can talk, again, back to that constant, clear communication, and say, let's adjust the sails this way. And the other person says, okay, let's try that. And you guys work together as a team until the problem is solved. But the thing is, your life and your life with others is a journey. It's never one and done. That's why the more people communicate clearly and often in a relationship, the healthier and better the boat's gonna sail. The longer you wait in between those communications, the more miscommunication, but probably more importantly, the more misperception is gonna happen. So if you really want to tune something up with someone because it's truly beneficial to both of you and it truly is what you want, then you need to increase your constant clear communication. Okay? Now let's say you've done that. Let's say one or both of you constantly clearly communicate, and I'm talking at least bare minimum once a day, and you're still hitting a rough patch. It still doesn't feel quite right. It still isn't making you more functional in that moment, and then especially over time. So now it's time for the overhaul. This is where you might need to bring in a physical doctor if there are physical problems. Hopefully it doesn't get that far yet, because I'm a true believer that if there is dis-ease in the soul, in the emotions, in the feelings, if you don't tend to it, it will show up in the physical body. Somewhere, some way, somehow. So, hopefully, at this point, you get in a trusted community member or counselor. Okay? So now you have an outside perspective, but I'll be honest, that's really hard, because even counselors and mediators, sometimes they still have their own agenda or closed mind as to what is right. You know, they got their degree from an academic place, and the academic place says there's only one way to fix things, or maybe here's a couple tools, but they're not open to truly hearing both sides and not taking sides which has someone who is a representative in her own building, people expect you to do. They want you to take sides, and a true mediator can't do that. A true mediator has to be neutral, calm, because they're trying to stabilize. They're trying to tune up something that's out of tune. So they can't be out of tune themselves. Okay, they have to be more like a scientist, objective. They have to be more like a piano tuner. See what's wrong and fix the problem. Okay, so it's really hard, I'm going to be honest, to find a good counselor or mediator, because they have to be objective. They can't take sides. They have to be open-minded. They have to have lots of tools in their tool bag. And they have to be able to relate that to each individual person. So, even though I don't have an official degree, I think I actually do that pretty well. So that is something I'm hoping that maybe I can get into in the future, really helping people understand their issues on a more objective, personal level. Okay. Now, let's say you and this person that you're in a relationship with, whether it's romantic, familial, family, community work, you've tried to work things out with a mediator and it hasn't worked. Well, step number one, is it you guys or is it the mediator? You know what I'm saying? Just like you might need to get a second or third opinion from a physical doctor, you might need to shop around for a good counselor or mediator. But then, once you determine, no, the mediator's fine, we still just can't do this. It doesn't feel right, and it doesn't make us functional. You know, there was something that I learned a long time ago. There's like a lot of like romantic love songs. Like, I was just listening one by the Eagles the other day. You know, when we're hungry, love will keep us alive. Love is enough. And if I'm going to be real and honest, not always, no. I think it's the rare exception, if you really want me to be honest. Love is not enough. You may love. You may care about. You may want, even if you don't love or care about the relationship, like if it's more in business, something to happen. But if you are trying to tune up and overhaul and it's not happening, you need a trade-in. You need to say, you know what? We may really want this. I may really want this. But the return in energy and effort is not giving me, I don't know what you want to call it, the return in energy that I'm getting back is depleting me to the point where I won't be able to continue. I'm not able to function. And when that's the case, sometimes you have to suck up your pride and say, I love you, or I want this, but it's just not worth the return investment, because maybe there isn't a return in your investment. Now, how long should you think about these things? Well, that's really personal for every person. You know, I'll give you a general guideline, but you really need to make it more personal for you. So I'm doing like a general guideline, and this is where like my special education training is coming in. In general, a tune-up is like 5 to 6 weeks. Okay, you guys are constantly communicating every day, adjusting the sails, and after 5 or 6 weeks, so, a month, 2 months, maybe you want to push it to 3, stuff just still isn't working. Okay, now it's time to move into an overhaul, and you're calling in a counselor, a mediator, because after those 5 to 6 weeks or 2 to 3 months, stuff still isn't working. So now, let's just do a nice clock, a nice 12-month calendar. Now it's hour hand 2 or 3, month 2 or 3, and you have actually been consistently communicating, working together as a team to try to tune things up. What's the issue? What's the problem? What are some possible ideas of how we can fix it? Let's implement those fixes. And be consistent about those fixes. Because if at the end of 2 or 3 months, it's not working and you weren't consistent, well, then that's you or that other person. And no matter if you get a mediator involved or not, it's not going to matter because you or that other person isn't doing the consistent work. So you're going to really have to be honest about that. Like, hey, I really wanted this, but I need to work on being consistent myself first. Or you need to work on being consistent yourself first before we do the overhaul. Okay, so that's also something you need to think about. Let's say you and that other person have checked in every day. You're clear, you're consistent, you found the problem areas, you implemented the fixes, the solutions, both of you, consistently every day over time for 5 to 6 weeks, 2 to 3 months. Well, now it's time for an overhaul. You find a good mediator. You go to the mediator and you say, hey, these were the problems, these were the fixes that we tried to implement, they didn't work. But you two are so emotionally involved in this that you can't, or you just lack the knowledge of different tools that you could use to implement. So this mediator comes in and says, okay, and if they're good, they're gonna hear things from both sides, they're gonna gather stuff, they're gonna see what you tried to do, and now they're also going to try to problem solve with you other ideas. And you guys are still doing the constant, clear communication every day, but now you're trying to apply the outside solutions, and you're checking in with the mediator at least once a week. How long do you do that? I would say another 5 to 6 weeks, 2 to 3 months. So the first 2 to 3 months, 5 to 6 weeks, you're doing a tune-up. That doesn't work. So now you're into month 4, 5, and 6, and you're trying to do the mediation. If the mediation is working, if the return on your investment is going up, then you continue with the mediation and the fixes. If it is flat, maybe you still try, but you don't want to be stuck on a merry-go-round. Then maybe you say, we've both really, really tried this, but if we're really, really honest, it's just not worth the return on the investment. And then you might consider, after 6 months to a year, a trade-in. But it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be messy. It could be we really did give it our best shot. We tried the tune-up, consistent, clear communication every day. Okay? We tried the overhaul. And we might love each other, we might respect each other, but we just don't make good partners. And so, you know, you either choose to go your separate ways, or you say, yeah, we can stay friends, we can stay business partners, but we just probably won't have as many interactions as we used to in the past. Okay? You can think outside the box. I think a lot of times people think if things need to end or get traded in, it has to be this huge catastrophe, emotional thing. For me, again, I started to see life more like playing with Legos and clay. Hey, or playing with someone on the playground. Hey, I really want to build this thing. You want to do it with me? Sure. And we build it and we say, oh, that's really cool. And then maybe we take it apart, we build something else, and we go, you know, I'm not sure what we built is so cool anymore. Or, yeah, I liked playing slides for a while. Do you want to go play kickball? I don't want to play kickball. I want to go to the swings. Maybe you guys agree to do the swings and play kickball. Or maybe people are stubborn. They're just like, I really hate the swings. I just don't like them. I'm sorry. I know you love them, and that's great. So go swing, and I'm going to go play kickball. And you don't have to, like, hate the person for going to be on the swings because they like the swings. I don't know. That's just how I've been seeing it as I get older. But that does require taking our ego down. And that's where I think highest possibility states will help people start to open up their subconscious shed, take little things out over time that help them build their courage, their acceptance, their self-confidence, their joy, you know, their clear communication and clear perception. That's really my passion, is to try to help people do that. Why? Because I was a hot mess, random all over the place, full of anxiety, and now people are like, you're so calm. Well, I do the work. Every morning I brush my teeth. Every morning I go into my subconscious and I see what's there. But I was an only child, and I don't mind doing things on my own. And what I'm learning is most people like to do it with someone, which is why we have counselors and mediators and things like that, and spiritual leaders. So I'm really hoping that I can start helping people one-on-one. I know I help people through my Jaunts with Jen, but that's the reason why I do them. It really sucks to be in a low possibility state. And as I said in my other jaunt the other morning, I'm going to make sure my music, my information, my wisdom is not trapped inside of me, because it needs to be shared so other people can start healing themselves and healing the people around them. And now we have a ripple effect that helps heal the world. You know, John Lennon, imagine. I hope that this has helped someone today, so that you can use your own clear communication skills to first help yourself and then help others around you. Not just your communication skills, but your observation skills, your skills of reflecting and adjusting, flexibility. Because now more than ever, the world needs that, and it needs you. Peace and blessings.